Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Commerce Show. Today, I'm really happy that I received someone really special. This special guest of this week is called Chris Parsons from Home Hardware. So Chris is the director of eCommerce at Home Hardware, but he's a very talented guy. I had so much fun with Chris. Chris also run a podcast called Delivering eCommerce that actually he launched almost at the same period that I've launched the Commerce Show, and he's doing a really, really nice job. Chris has been at various positions such as Walmart, NewEgg, Pet, and now he's at Home Hardware. We've been talking about various subjects such as their e-commerce strategy, how the pandemic affected them, but actually how they get through it, and also all their HR strategy of how they're leveraging their inside team to go get other talents. So it was really, really amazing to have Chris on the show. So I'm sure you'll enjoy that episode. And I'm going to be also on his show in few weeks. So stay tuned for this and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps us a lot to get more reach, and also subscribe on Spotify. Thank you so much. The podcast starts right now. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Commerce Show. Today, I'm really excited to receive Chris Parsons from Home Hardware. Hello, Chris. How are you?
Very good. And yourself? It's a pleasure to be with you today.
I'm really good. So off the record, we were talking about various background that you have in e-commerce. Can you tell our audience how long have you been in the e-commerce? What have you did to be now running an e-commerce specialized podcast and being the director of e-commerce at Home Hardware?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate in my career. I started off, I started off at Future Shop at some point and learning some skills in retail, but then ultimately got my first good break at Walmart Home Office doing analytics for their flyer program. And then one day I was in a meeting and my director said we needed a website for potentially selling items. And
Wow.
Yeah, basically from there, it was just the right moment at the right time and the willingness to learn and take on something. So I flew to Bentonville in Arkansas, learned coding over a couple of days and got a book, HTML for Dummies, and came back and started using Dreamweaver and building Walmart Canada's website. And that was around 2004. I was already with the company for a couple of years in 2002.
Okay.
We started to grow the team. So it went from myself to, by the time 2007 came along, about 70 people. And we launched, and by then, an e-commerce. So for the first number of years, it was research only, driving traffic and footsteps to store. And then it became an e-commerce platform in around 2007. 2010, we parted ways, and or 2011-ish, sorry. And ultimately, the best thing about leaving Walmart, even though I loved it there, was the fact that you didn't know your success was either Walmart or your own, because Walmart had so many dollars to spend and you can buy traffic and you can buy engagement. So you didn't know with what you were doing was really making that difference. And I had the opportunity to go work for a company called NewEgg.com.
Everybody knows NewEgg for sure. Everybody has already bought on that website.
Yeah, but NewEgg was just launching in Canada. We had, I guess they were there for about a year or so just before I joined. And at that time, I joined originally as the director of marketing for them. And within months, became the country manager for NewEgg.com. We grew to about $100 million business in the year that I was there. So that was significant, especially in the Canadian market. And then I had the opportunity to go and launch 8 other countries for NewEgg. So by that time, between Walmart and NewEgg, I had some really good confidence in my capabilities and the ability to lead great teams. and had the opportunity to go and work for a couple of pet companies. One was Big Owls, and then the other one was Wren's Pets. And I worked for Wren's for a very brief time, less than a year. And the only thing that took me away from Wren's was the opportunity to come here, because Scott and the folks over at Wren's have a great model, a great concept. They are true. The culture there is one of the best cultures I could have ever asked for in an organization. And but when an iconic company like Home Hardware is wanting you to come and work for them, I couldn't turn it down. And now I've been here for 2.5 years, and I'm the director of e-commerce, having an amazing time growing my team and having a ton of success with this fun, engaging group and making a difference in local communities, which is great.
That's really amazing. And the reason why we met online was because a friend, so we call Johnny Rousseau, went on your podcast, and I want to talk about your podcast. And he also been on the Commerce Show. So let's talk about delivering e-commerce, which is your podcast that you've started almost, I think, at the same period that I've started the Commerce Show. Would like to know why did you start the podcast, and how have you been able to bring it at that level of success? You have way more subscribers than me. You have way more views. I guess maybe you have a larger audience when you've started, but I'm curious to know why and how have you decided to start your podcast?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that you're still you're not even 30 yet. I'm in my 40s, and I won't give the exact age, but I'm in my 40s, and ultimately
41.
Yeah, exactly. I've leveraged LinkedIn for many years since it started, growing my network, and I'm connected to about 15,000 people, closing in on 16,000 people through just, when you work for big brands, everyone wants to connect with you because they want to be able to sell you something, and then also they're seeking knowledge. So I was very fortunate to be with that type of audience already. And now I'm just converting that audience to different platforms, which makes it easier than someone that has no following or no engagement. So I've been very fortunate that I've kept in touch with a lot of great people from the industry. And, I've now had 25 podcasts posted and just having a lot of fun doing it. What drove me there was, before the pandemic, I used to go to do a lot of dinners with other leaders in the industry and have good dialogue and conversations. And, you would meet with suppliers at those dinners or different conferences. And during COVID, that all was kind of missing. And I wanted to create a way to kind of engage with that again. And also, I grew up with a learning disability. And with that learning disability, I was basically told I wouldn't amount to anything. And ultimately, here I am as a director and having success in e-commerce in Canada with multiple platforms being launched. And I try to do public speaking and help kids understand and have confidence that we all learn different. Yes, school has its place and school teaches a specific way, but if you're struggling, it might not be you that's struggling. It might be you just have a different way in showing your pros, and, attaching yourself to your strengths is hard for kids because they think they have to follow the norm. So what I wanted to do, the goal was with the podcast, is to hopefully one day generate some significant revenue from it, and then take that revenue and donate it to kids with learning disabilities and help them early on, versus I didn't start gaining confidence in myself until I was in my 20s. So hopefully kids, if I can give back to the community, will get some help and will make a difference.
That's an amazing story. I wasn't aware of that part. And that's really cool. I had a little bit of issues in the elementary school to learn because I was so much energetic. So I have like a huge ADHD, and it's always something when I'm not in front of a screen. It's hard for me. But the computer screen helped me to keep focus, and just shuffling from a tab to another, I can remember what I was doing just a few minutes ago.
And for me, what it was is reading and writing and listening and taking notes, all of that together, I wasn't able to do. But if I, once you got into the later years of college, you were able to listen to lectures. And by just absorbing a lecture, I was able to have better retention of the knowledge that I was receiving, versus listening to a teacher, trying to take notes, trying to organize my thoughts. It didn't happen for me back then. So anyways, found ways to learn, and that's what I just hope to get a message to more kids is there's different ways, and don't think that you're any less of a person because you're learning differently.
That's amazing. And do you have a specific amount of episode that you want to do, or a specific target? So you want to give back to community, but outside of that, do you have like something in mind, like let's do 100 episode or more? Or do you expect to stop
Yeah,
at some point, or what's your vision?
I think as long as I'm having fun with it, I'm going to keep doing it. 25 episodes in, I'm now really enjoying it. The first 10 were so nervous, and I cringe going back and watching them. But now that 25, I'm enjoying it. And as long as I'm having fun doing it and other people are engaging with it, then I'll keep doing it, because it is actually a good way to unwind from your day-to-day work and give you something else to work on. And also It helps my knowledge. I mean, by having great guests, I'm staying on top of the industry by having these great guests.
That's amazing. I'm still a little bit struggling for a few episodes like today. So that's amazing to see that I'm not the only one. When I was listening few of your podcast, I realized that I can say that you're more generalist in e-commerce because you've touched to so much things. So started from a developer standpoint at Walmart, but then you moved to various positions where you had to take part of the marketing strategy and logistics and other topics. What would you say that are your, let's say, top three strength in the e-commerce, just to put our audience in
I think probably leadership is my number one, and motivating and hiring the right talent, because it's not me that makes a difference. It's the 30 people that I have working for me, or working with me, I should say, that are making the big difference on what we deliver. And that's been true for all of my teams. It's not me. I help set the direction and the path forward and remove roadblocks for them, but it's really getting the right talent, motivating them, removing barriers for them, and encouraging them to be able to make mistakes and learn from them. Yep. So I think leadership is number one. Number two, I think, would be my marketing thought process. I think about customer acquisition probably different than a lot of people. Definitely not a spray and pray type of marketer. Very focused on, I'd rather not tout that we have 5 million people a month coming to the site if only 0.2% convert. I'd rather have less traffic, quality traffic, and talk about the high conversion and get the right traffic to the website so we're relevant.
Okay.
And then I look at those from a marketing standpoint. I look at all the digital tactics, and I have the knack of breaking things down that were maybe in a traditional model historically, and showing how we've just elevated it to digital. So taking the Sears catalog and making it into a website, same thing, or taking a department store and making that into a marketplace. They're the same thing. There's one model was physical and one model is digital. And when you start to connect those dots to people, then it gives them confidence and understanding that you're not really inventing anything new here. You're just evolving it. And then I guess the last piece is, I think, a strength of mine. Some people might say it's a weakness, but I'm always looking for what's next and what's new. And I'll take chances on those things where other people want it to be perfect. If I can get 98% there, I'm good with it. Let's do it, and we'll learn from those things instead of waiting for perfect. So to me, it's about the what's the art of possible, and let's go make that happen. Versus, so many people will say why, they give you reasons of why you can't do anything. And if you listen to everybody tell you couldn't do anything, you wouldn't do anything at all. You would barely leave the house. So so I think that's a big strength of mine.
That's amazing, and I do recognize myself also on the point that you need to make shit done, to be honest, because when you start to overthink and overplan things, nothing happen. And most of the time I just reach out to people, or I go in front of everything that the team is doing, and I just want to make sure that we don't miss the first wave, such as what is currently happening in TikTok advertising, or other advertising platform where it does make sense to be there at the beginning, but after let's say 10 years, the ACOS and the
Right.
CPC will explode. So yeah, I guess we're on the same page for that.
Well, what I try to do is let people know, like, can you imagine how much we debate in retail on doing, I don't know, like social selling, social selling to me is a no brainer. It just needs to happen. But then we'll debate that internally, why it should happen. Can you imagine if you were a surgeon operating on a patient and you debated what was the next step in fixing their heart or something? You would have zero success as a surgeon. You wouldn't be a surgeon for long. So you got to be able to make decisions quickly.
Yeah, after one one patient that died, you would
Yeah,
love to
exactly.
lose your job. Yeah, it does remind me a few meetings this week, arguing about coupons and affiliate program. So whatever.
Yeah. Well, go and test, right? Test and learn, and
Yeah,
as long as you're not, putting the company in a negative, you're going to learn
yeah,
from it, and the next promotion will be even better.
yeah, for sure. And talking about the company, so you are working at Home Hardware. I don't think Home Hardware really need a presentation. Most of the people that are listening would know what it is. And I would like to know, since you've been involved in the e-commerce operation, we had that the wonderful pandemic. I would be especially curious to know what have changed so far with the pandemic and how you've dealt with volume increase and also surge in price for material and all that stuff that happened in your industry.
Yeah. So, I mean, Home Hardware is one of the most fascinating and unique um, retail models to ever have the opportunity to work for, because traditionally we're a wholesaler. We support our dealers who are entrepreneurs and own their own stores.
Okay.
And while
It's kind of a franchise model, right?
similar, yes.
Okay.
So those dealers were, especially with COVID, the priority was everyone's safety versus transactional sales online. Is how are we going to make sure our warehouse staff is safe, adjusting and making sure they had proper distancing, and our store staff, and how, making sure they were even comfortable coming to work, because a lot of people weren't comfortable at the beginning, even going to work to serve customers. So all of that had to be taken into consideration. And I was really, really happy with our leadership and how fast they were able to react and get people working from home, because historically this company's never worked from home. Everyone comes into the office day to day. And within a 2-week period, all of a sudden everybody was working from home that needed to, which was amazing and really something to be proud about, that they took it so seriously. And then from an overall industry perspective, I mean, the challenges have been endless, whether it's flow of goods coming in from overseas, or, the manufacturing and not having the right chips for certain electronic products. It's been a constant pivot on what you're going to promote and have in market, and, how much should you buy, because these trends don't necessarily last forever. So, as customers were really engaging and fixing up their home, each of our stores and our business had to decide how much lumber to invest in, because if travel opens back up, then that spend goes to a different area. So all of those things were major considerations, and the organization has done as well as anyone could expect, considering all of the pivoting that had to go on. And that's really kudos to, again, our senior leaders who had to make some tough choices. And I know not everyone might have agreed with them, but ultimately they made choices with the information they had at the time, and really, really proud of them.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear, because when you have like a huge ship to turn, it's always tough to take some decisions. But I heard that you took care of all your staff and make sure that everyone was healthy, and you didn't only focus on results. And I think that's the best way to handle that type of crisis.
Yeah, and right now everyone's focused on, and they have been during the whole time, but specifically now, is as people are starting to come back to the office, is what's everyone's mental health like, and let's not make them feel that they're forced to come back. Let's open this and get people accustomed to it at their own pace, which is also a nice thing for our organization to do. And it's great to be part of a culture like that.
Yeah, That mental health is really, really important. On my last episode, I was talking with Jake Carls from Midday Squares. They sell basically chocolate bar, and he told me that every weeks he meet a psychologist with all the other founders to make sure that everybody is healthy and are able to continue their growth because they're growing really fast. So I think it's something to take
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
serious point. Yeah.
And I mean, you don't have to wait until you're feeling depressed to go and talk to somebody. I think it's always good, whether it's a best friend, a spouse, whoever, to have somebody that you're constantly having that trust and conversation with, because you may not even sometimes realize um, how much you need that partnership and relationship with someone. So just find someone that you can engage with. It's just good advice.
Yeah, for sure. And talking about those people, we are in tech and marketing, where talent and resources are really difficult to find. I'm pretty sure in at your place it's also the case. And when I've listened to one of your podcasts, you said that you grew from 8 to 30 in your team over the last months. Do you still find it easy to recruit or hard? And what's your best strategy around that to recruit some good talents?
Yeah, I think it's hard because everybody is actually recruiting for this specialized area of e-commerce
Yeah.
at the same time. Everybody wants to grow it fast now. Before, it used to be easy to recruit because only a handful of retailers truly believed in it, but now everyone knows it's table stakes and organizations need to be there, so it's hard. The easier part is the fact that we have such a great culture and people want to be part of it. And even with my 30 staff, um, they are engaged with their job. They love their job. So they talk to their friends. They talk to other people with similar skill sets. And that group that's being advocates for us is making it easier to recruit because we have this kind of momentum where everyone wants to be a part of it. So that part is really, really nice. And then from my standpoint, because I've been in the industry so long, I have a network of people that I can and have worked with in the past, and I can pull them in because I'm lucky enough that they still want to work with me again.
I guess it's really important to keep that good relation when you leave from somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. And but overall in the industry, yeah, this industry, if you're looking for a career in e-commerce, let me tell you, you can look at LinkedIn today and you'll find, from whether it's email marketing, digital marketing, social media, logistics, I've never seen it so competitive before in my life for talent. So good luck, because
where do you think we're heading with that talent crisis? Do you think a company like maybe Home Hardware or Walmart or every other businesses will have to open offshore offices? I know for some of those that it's already done, but how do you see that in the future? Let's say what's the future of talent in 5 years?
Yeah, I think what retailers should be doing is making sure that they have a succession plan and really developing people internally as much as possible, because there's other areas of the business that as you invest more into e-commerce may not be relevant in the future. So you might as well start with those areas and start having conversations with people that potentially could be out of work someday, because whatever tactic they're working on or whatever area they're working on may not exist, and start working on their skill set, so that way that you can migrate them over to some positions in a growing area. And I think that's a best practice for all retailers to look at. I think if you've already trusted someone, you've got confidence in what they're delivering, just because it may be, I don't know, on the logistics side or maybe even the operations side, if they're good people and they have the right attitude, they can learn e-commerce. So start there, start with your own internal associates. And then from there, I think the other piece is, yeah, you can outsource stuff. I've tried that a few times. It's hit or miss on the success from offshoring stuff. I think the labor is cheap. Sometimes it takes a lot more time on your side of communicating and getting the offshore to understand your goals, because they're not engaged with the business, right? So you have to spend a lot more time educating them on what the business is trying to achieve, where it's going. And it takes a number of months to get them ramped up. versus with an associate that's ingrained into the culture, understands the Canadian market, understands, store of the community. You can save all of those conversations and just focus on the day-to-day work. So, and then I think you just really have to hire for attitude. I've went and looked for specialists in different areas of e-commerce, and if they're not a good fit from a culture perspective, if they've got a bad attitude, I don't care how strong you are at whatever task, it's not gonna be a fun environment for either of us. So I'd rather go and hire for someone's attitude versus what they say on their resume is their skill set.
Yeah, for sure. That's something that we share also in our values here at Novatize. We had one time a guy that was about to leave the company because he wanted to start to specialize into something else, and it was an A++ player, and we just offered him, you can open a new department and start doing what you want to do somewhere else in-house. And it's been, I think, 3 months so far that he's investing into the new department, and it goes so well because he's a leader. He's strong enough to build new knowledge in-house, and we're really happy we were able to keep him. So
retaining people is great.
That's amazing. I would be curious to know what has been your biggest challenge so far at Home Hardware.
Well, I mean, ultimately our dealers are running stores in all kinds of different markets. Some of them have stores of 5,000 square feet. Some of them are 45,000 square feet. So, having
so big gap between
those big gaps, size. Big difference in assortment, big difference in the marketplace, and the thought process of, are those customers online shoppers or not? So, I guess the biggest piece is making sure that we have good communication, and I've gotten better over the 2 years that I've been here with how we communicate to our dealers, get their support, get their buy-in to our vision, and making sure that you and I have past experience of working at Future Shop, and that training at Future Shop was great, which was guest, greet, understand, educate, secure, and thank, and understanding what their objections are to whether it be e-commerce or promotions or whatever it is, but really listening and understanding it before you just start talking and saying, this is why you're doing it. Because if you understand it, then you can talk to the hot buttons that are really driving that conversation.
I do remember it in French, it was called bravo.
Bravo. So, there you go.
Like B for bienvenue and everything else. So we do remember our first experience, first training at Future Shop, and we still use it today.
100%.
That's 100%. Amazing. What a great school. I miss those days. I saw that at Home Hardware you do work with a platform called Kibo Commerce, and was the first time I heard about it. I would love to know more and have some insights about the platform. So who should consider that platform and who should not, and why are you on that type of platform?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I can't take credit for Kibo. There was a team ahead of me that selected Kibo, and I had never heard of it either as coming in, and I had to make sure I had an open mind because I was used to like ATG, Fatwire, you name it, like Magento, a couple of sites on Magento, or Shopify Plus, for example. So what I wanted to do is evaluate Kibo and the technology stack that they have. And thankfully, I know enough about technology to be satisfied with it. And then we also hired a new director here, Danny, director of IT of e-commerce, and him and I work basically hand in glove to evaluate. I give him my business approach, and he makes sure that he brings it to life. What was nice about Kibo was it's relatively new, but some major players were already on it, especially within our vertical. So it gave us confidence there. Some Canadian players were already using it. So now we have a network of other retailers that if we're having an opportunity, we chat with and ask them how they overcame certain things, or we offer them advice as well. So that's a positive. And then I think what I liked about Kibo, not when we first started, because we were called on a bundled platform where it was like everything was just Kibo. Now we're on unbundled. It's called a unified commerce platform, where they've taken different technologies like Certona, Magento, and you can pick and choose what elements of it that you want to use, and you can decouple from their fraud, or you can go and run your own payment gateway. So it does
Oh, that's
give you
amazing.
great flexibility to where you don't have core strengths, you can leverage them, and where you want to drive new strengths and opportunities with your business, you can move away.
So
So
it's a more open in terms of business model instead of be closed and proprietary solution.
yeah, and it's as our development team gets more familiar with it, it's becoming easier and easier for them to decide what elements they want to keep and what elements they want to um, move to something else. And I think we have a good balance with Kibo right now.
Hmm. That's amazing. I will read more about the solution. We saw a rise in our customer asking for a buy now, pay later solutions such as
Mhm.
Sezzle, PayBright, name it, Affirm. And when I went on Home Hardware, I discovered that you don't offer that type of payment solution. I would be curious to know why and what's your thought about it.
Yeah, so there's a number of other projects in the organization that are going on that are foundational to our business, and we wanted to prioritize. And right now, those things are being prioritized. We just upgraded to the Kibo platform in January, so
Okay, so
we're
it's
now,
pretty recent.
it's
Okay.
pretty recent. We are now switching over our payment gateway to a Canadian partner. So again,
Okay.
another priority, and that gives us flexibility to have Amazon Pay, Google Pay, et cetera, et cetera. And then now we'll be mature enough to start looking at buy now, pay later plans, which are popping up all over the place. And there's some great players in the market. I met with a number of them, like Sezzle and Zip.co recently.
Mhm.
Those guys are doing some fantastic things in the marketplace. And not say that we're going to use them, but just a couple of names that I really enjoyed good conversations with. And then,
Mhm.
also you have guys like Visa that are bringing in very similar plans of buy now, pay later as well. So lots of options for us as retailers. And we're just going to take the time and evaluate, make sure we got the right plan for our consumers going forward that is got some longevity to it for where we want to grow.
That's amazing. And I've discovered also that a few months ago, Shopify launched their own solution in the US and it's coming
Yep.
in into Canada.
Yeah,
So,
Shopify's been doing, Amazon started with, starting to acquire different pieces of e-commerce like logistics or
yeah,
and now Shopify is doing the same with a logistics network
yeah.
and buy now pay later programs, and trying to be what I appreciate about Shopify is for an entrepreneur starting up, they're really making it turnkey for them.
Oh, yeah. And it's still growing and it's still more simple and simple. So
Yeah.
that's amazing to see that. Um, if we go back to one of your strengths, you talk about traffic acquisition, and would like to know, have you tested like new media so far, such as TikTok, Twitch, or other emerging ads platform?
Yeah. So another director on my team runs the whole social acquisition component, but I run a couple of my own businesses, and we've tested a number of platforms out. What I really like with social selling and where it's going, I think TikTok has actually partnered with Shopify as well recently. But social selling in the US, North America, is now representing 30% of e-commerce transactions.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's a significant amount of volume that's now
It
coming through
is.
where customers are. So I think, any retail expert will want to make sure that they're not just trying to acquire customers to their core platform, but
Yeah.
they're going to go where the customers are. And if it's TikTok and we can find a good way to engage with a customer in TikTok, then we should do that. If we're just going to be there and be a distraction to what they're trying to do and engage with, then we
Yeah.
should probably avoid that, because it's just going to hurt our brand long term. But I think, social media's got so many different options. I think you can find a way. Like for me, with our tagline of "Here's how," I constantly think that video is definitely the way they go, and
Hmm.
YouTube specifically, because you
Yes.
can do some really engaging tutorials to help customers understand. Here's how to build a dog house, or renovate your backyard. So I
For sure.
think video is key for our growth as an organization, and is really consumable for a customer. Like I always say that I'm video certified or YouTube certified, because no matter what I do now, like building a backsplash in my house or fixing up an old car, I now have the confidence because I can watch a video from somebody else who's done it and has probably posted some kind of walkthrough, a tutorial on doing it. And that's what I love about these social media platforms now, because if you ever tried to read a manual and do those things, it's almost impossible.
I no longer read any manuals. So I get that we won't never see a home hardware dance, but it's okay.
No, you might. I do like to cut a
might.
rug every once in a while. No, you won't see me
No,
dance.
no. I would love so. Would love to. That's amazing. My last question for the e-commerce part is, when I listened to one of your podcasts, you were talking about doing a partnership with an agency, and of course, it triggered me because I am an agency owner. I would like to know. You were talking about taking risks together. So the agency as a partner and the brand as the brand. And I would like to know what have been so far the criteria of success of that type of partnership. So what are the key points that you should have in a contract or the basis of a relationship to lead to a success?
Yeah, and I say the first thing is trust, and I always say that even with my team, if we don't trust each other, then we'll never have success together. So regardless of what agency, you have to be able to trust each other, and they have to trust the information you're providing, and you have to trust that they're going to make the best recommendations for you. And if you don't have that trust, then I would say don't get into a relationship with them, because you're always going to be challenging each other, and it's not going to be very productive. But I like to create win-win scenarios with an agency, and the only way to do that is have transparency. And I know a lot of leaders don't want to share their metrics, their KPIs, but I do. And I learned this from a gentleman at Walmart. He was leading the organization, and basically what he said was, once he defined our 3 to 5 year strategy, he said he could have the confidence to walk over to another retailer, drop it on their CEO's desk, basically hand them the whole strategy, and have the confidence that we would succeed because we were able to execute and they weren't. So
that's amazing.
Right. And I took a lot away from that comment. Like, I still remember him on stage saying that, and it made so much more sense to me when I started leading people. Is if we can build a clear strategy and have confidence in our team to go and execute, and confidence in our agency partners to bring it to life, the only way they're going to be able to do that is being transparent and showing them what you want to achieve and your metrics, so that you can measure things together. If they don't have transparency, if your agency doesn't have transparency to your daily sales, your transactions, then how can you hold them accountable for growth?
Of course.
So I think that's the biggest area, and then also I believe that agencies, once they finish understanding what your requirements are, need to have a stake in the game. Whether, like, a lot of times an agency just wants to say, here's $500,000 we need for a campaign. And if it doesn't produce, they are like, oh, well, we executed on it. But to me, I think agencies need to say, we're going to spend that $500,000 on that campaign, where we want to be accountable for driving, for every dollar, we want to return on an ad spend of 5. And we should be monitoring that together during the course of that campaign to be as close to 5 as possible. And an agency should not just set it and forget it. And if you have an agency that sets it and forgets it, I think you need to forget about them.
Of course. That's amazing to see that. And would you offer like retribution on performance on that point? Like, if they do succeed or reach more than just the goal, would you be open to pay more for an agency that provide more performance? How
100%. As long as our business is growing, we should grow together. And like, a lot of times I used to negotiate so hard that there wasn't much percentage of margin left for our agency. So no wonder they weren't motivated, because they were operating on 1 or 2%. And maybe that helped them from a NASCAR slide, because they were able to have your logo on a slide, but it didn't help them from a profitability of their organization or a motivational standpoint. So you have to find ways to reward your agency for success, because if you're both growing together, why not?
Of course. And just top of mind question before I end my other questions. Do you remember of an approach that was done by an agency owner or a sales rep that really hooked you and got your attention, and you were like, oh, this is different than the way I have been approached so far? It cannot be only just an agency. It can be also a software provider or a sales rep that was more than what you were expecting and you've been surprised.
Yeah, and I can tell you specifically because I actually had the pleasure of interviewing him for my podcast, which
Oh, yeah.
was
Nice.
Mitch Joel. Mitch
Okay.
Joel from 6 Pixels of Separation owned a company, Twist Image or Twist Image. It was the agency out of Toronto, and we were looking for a digital agency. And
Okay.
I didn't necessarily buy into what his staff was selling us, but I was lucky enough to go and watch Mitch speak at a conference and speak to him afterwards, and how authentic he was, how much knowledge he had on the industry, and the way he interacted with not only myself but with everybody else that he interacted with showed me something about his character. And that meant a lot to me versus just the sales pitch. Was the actual, you're working with people, right? So it's easy to go sign a legal contract and say we're going to do XYZ together. But if we're working with people, it's people that are going to make the difference in an organization. And seeing a leader like him made me have confidence in his team because he was inspiring.
Oh, that's a really, really good answer. So I'm going to start to do some conferences.
100%. I mean, retailers, especially when they're green, like myself, when I was with Walmart, I had the opportunity to launch an e-commerce site and had zero experience. So I'm not going to gain that experience from my boss. He didn't have it. My boss was fantastic, but he didn't have that experience. So I had to go and learn from suppliers or from different conferences, and just like another gentleman is Michael LeBlanc from RCC. And I've had the pleasure of watching him speak a number of times. And every time that he was done speaking, I would ask for clarification on certain points. And he was always gracious enough to go deeper into those conversations. So when you find people like that in the industry, I think you should latch on to them.
That's amazing. And we've decided us in Quebec to launch an e-commerce convention that we hold each year. And by now we are the largest e-commerce convention in French for the Canada market. So by now you might receive an invite really soon.
I better go brush up on my French.
Oh yeah, but it's a bilingual by now.
Oh,
because
good.
we have enlarged, of course. Talking about how do you stay up to date right now in e-commerce? I guess you listen to podcasts and conferences, but I would be more than curious to know what are your source of truth.
Yeah, I'm a student of retail. I listen to a lot of audiobooks on my drives. So years ago, I got out of the practice of listening to music on my drive, and I take that half hour of drive each way and listen to audiobooks. And so that's one. The other piece is LinkedIn. I mentioned before is a great resource for trending topics. And I come into work 1 hour ahead of my shift every single day.
Oh, okay.
So from 7 to 8, I'm here. My shift starts at 8, but from 7 to 8, I'm either catching up on emails or I take some time for myself to continue to learn and actually read those articles, not just read the headlines, but to read those articles. And then, it's all the best practices that you can do. As a student, you just keep doing as an adult. You're constantly learning and constantly,
of course,
I'm bringing it to life. And I do love the thought leadership conferences where you get a chance to sit down and roundtable with other thought leaders and discuss and debate. And my vision is not always the best vision, but at least by having an opinion on something, I'm able to discuss and debate it with others, where I think a lot of people shy away from putting their opinion out there. Because they're afraid that everyone would think it's wrong. But I'd rather hear it's wrong from a group of colleagues than to go out and execute something and have customers tell me it's wrong. So I think establishing networks that you can trust and banter back and forth with is something I continuously do.
That's really interesting. And what would be your best advice for someone that would like to have an e-commerce director role like yours in, such as a big organization like Home Hardware?
Yeah, I mean, I think you always need to be planting the seed. So you always need to be reaching out to individuals that are not maybe in your core network. And if you have a company that you're targeting, start developing relationships with those people. Like, go, if you're interested in being a director of e-commerce, go and have a dialogue with the VP of merchandising. Go and have a dialogue with the VP of logistics. Offer to take people out for a lunch, or
Hmm.
just start getting engaged with the organization before you even apply for a job. And
That's
that's
a really good idea, actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a way to start building that rapport. So when your resume does go past somebody, they're familiar with you already.
Mm.
Have a talk with associates there to find out if it's the culture you even like. So don't focus on the VP level. Go and focus on some of the coordinators and some of the people actually making the work happen, and
Hmm.
see what their opinion is on the organization. And yeah, I think that's the best advice I can give, is just constantly be engaged with the company that you're targeting, or want to target in the future, and you'll be able to have some success.
Really cool ending note, Chris. It was a pleasure for me to have you, and I'm sure all our audience will really enjoy that podcast. Do you have an ending note or something you want to say? Or
No, I appreciate you giving me the time today. Delivering e-commerce is a passion of mine. So if someone wants to check it out on YouTube or Spotify, I would greatly appreciate the
I'll share
subs.
the
And
link.
I can't wait to have you on my podcast, and I can reverse the roles here.
Nice, nice. I will be there for sure. It's gonna be my pleasure. And yeah, so if people want to reach you at, it's gonna be on LinkedIn, I guess. Chris Parsons.
Yeah, you can reach me on LinkedIn. That's the best place to get me. Email is a drain. So just private message me or message me on LinkedIn. I'm way more responsive to that, because um, in my email, I find it's nothing but sales guys trying to sell me something. But on my LinkedIn profile, there's a lot of engagement from really good people that have just the the willingness and the want to network.
Oh yeah, I love it, and I really thank you so much that you've reached me at first to do that podcast. I'm really happy about it. So I accept. I will be on your podcast for sure, and talk to you soon, Chris. It was a pleasure.
It was a very big pleasure for me as well. Thank you.